Hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining me on another great episode here on Eat Sleep Brief. And this week I want to start out this video by first thanking each and every one of you that watched last week's episode and gave me your input on what I should do as far as algae turf scrubber, refugium. There was a lot of you that commented. I actually went back and forth with a few of you, picking your brains as well, that, you know, for you people that did or are running algae turf scrubbers, maybe have run refugiums. If you didn't check out that video, probably wouldn't be a bad idea to check it out. You can hear some pros and cons to both of them. I wouldn't really say there's a con to any of them other than a refugium taking up more real estate. But if you did miss that, there is going to be a link down below that'll take you straight to that video. So be sure to check that out. So a few things that have been updated this week. I know in that episode, I let you guys know that the tank was actually shipping out within the next few days. I got good news. The tank is here. Well, it's not here, but it's here, if that makes any sense. Pretty much, the tank is already here within 30 minutes of my home. It's at a UPS facility. They actually already called to schedule the drop-off because it is a big pallet. It's going to be a freight delivery. So if you guys have ever had a freight delivery or maybe had a big tank delivered, you know, UPS or whoever, they'll probably call you, make sure you're home, because again, it is a big package and not something they can leave at the front of your door. Aside from the tank, we have had a few more products being delivered, and another one of those great products is exactly what you can see here. It's an Avast Marine kalkstirrer. It's a way to pretty much keep your kalk mixed up, keep it fully saturated, so whatever you're dosing, it's a very high concentration as well. You're benefiting from having the high pH. In a nutshell, for you guys that aren't aware what kalk is, it's an actual solution. I forget the exact proper scientific term for it, but I do know it's, I believe, also known as lime water. But it's actually meant to supplement calcium and alkalinity in your tanks, and it does them both in equal parts. Generally speaking, when you are talking about dosing, you cannot dose calcium and alkalinity together. They must be dosed at least 5-10 minutes separated, or else they'll precipitate and then get out of the system. One of the benefits with kalk is you are able to dose both elements. They do go in equal parts. You aren't able to make adjustments, so if one is higher or one is lower, you cannot adjustment. They'll both come up equally. Also, some benefits is that I've heard, because I've only briefly ran it, it also maintains low phosphate. I know a lot of us deal with high phosphates in our reef tanks. With the kalk reactor, kalkstirrer, it actually allows you to, I believe it precipitates the phosphate or binds the phosphate in a way that is no longer a nuisance to your tank. In this week's video, I wanted to ask each and every one of you your opinions on what you believe and what are your thoughts on kalkstirrers. So like I mentioned, I did get this from Avast Marine. For you guys who remember the JBJ, I actually first was introduced to that brand when I ran the second media chamber for my calcium reactor. That's how I first was aware of them. I'm very happy. I trusted them enough. Their build quality was very good. I really had no complaints. So I said, you know what? Let's give their kalkstirrer a try. So I know a few of you may be watching this video and you're saying, well, from what you knew, you can actually put kalk solution to a certain extent. Obviously, you know, it becomes fully saturated. I forget the exact level that it becomes fully saturated, but you're under the impression that you can put kalk in your auto top off and just have your auto top off pump or whatever mechanism you're using to dose into the tank. You're absolutely right. You absolutely can do that. The only problem that comes with that is that there's variations during summer and winter months on how much water is being precipitated out of your tank, thus pouring solution of kalk into your tank. So that's one of the biggest, I wouldn't say complaints, but one of the biggest drawbacks of running it in your auto top-off reservoir. Also, number two, this stuff is really nasty. The kalk solution, it's really mucky, really nasty. It's pretty much calcified slushy is what it is. So it's really hard on pumps, on tubings. It's just really difficult. That's why there's kalkstirrers that exist, because it kind of takes all that out. There's really no pump, there's nothing. It just throws water in from one side and then forces it out through the other, and obviously the stirrer on the bottom keeps the solution fully saturated. That's another thing. When it comes to kalk, it's a good thing to periodically, at least once a day, mix it. You don't have to. I've ran it in my auto top off without doing it, but you don't get the most potent solution. Also, when you are running an auto top off, if it's not air sealed or somewhat airtight, you run a high risk of diluting the solution, thus not being so effective. So when it comes to the kalkstirrer, it is enclosed. I wouldn't say it's super airtight, but it's pretty airtight where I wouldn't be too worried of too much of the solution evaporating or precipitating out. And also with the stirrer, it actually stirs it 24/7. Now you are able to run it 24/7. You are able to put it on a timer. Again, I don't think personally I would need to research a little bit more if it needs to be run 24/7. I guess my best bet is just reach out to the Vast Marine. I'm sure they'll let me know. But I do know people that run them on timers and just run them for about an hour or maybe an hour before they're going to dose, or however they have it set up. That's typically how they set it up. So once we have all that out of the way when it comes to kalkstirrer, how it is, how you can run them either through your auto top-off container or just through a stirrer itself. You may be saying, so why in the world would you even run this? Why not just run a doser? Why not just do a water change to maintain your alkalinity and calcium? So why are you even doing this? And that's actually a great question. So one of the main reasons a lot of people run kalkstirrers, believe it or not, it's not really because it doses calcium and alkalinity. Given that's just something that happens, it's a plus you get from it. But one of the big reasons you see people run kalkstirrers, it's one of the most effective ways to run a higher elevated pH level in your reef tank. For you guys know, corals tend to calcify a lot quicker with a higher pH. Not guaranteed, but generally speaking, from the reading you'll probably do out there, any research you do on forums and even other videos, you'll see that running a higher pH, generally speaking, will give you better growth, sometimes better coloration because there's more calcification of the coral going on at those higher pH levels. BRS has a few videos on this topic, so does Reef Builders. He has, I remember him mentioning he will never run a tank without a kalkstirrer because of the high advantages of the pH. So again, now this stuff does also increase your calcium and alkalinity. I wouldn't say increase, but it supplements it into the tank while also replacing your auto top-off water, while also running a higher pH, an elevated pH. I wouldn't call it high, but an elevated pH. So you can see about a total of 4 benefits of running these, and that's probably why you'll tend to see, especially more SPS-driven reefers tend to, I wouldn't say all, but a lot of them will run a kalkstirrer. Maybe they have run a kalkstirrer. So the main reason I'm going to be running it, that's probably what you're watching this video for, is like, what am I going to use it for? Well, I'm specifically using it for the advantage of running elevated pH. Now, I am going to start this off at the tank from the beginning, so obviously it is going to supplement my calcium and alkalinity. That's just what it's going to be doing because, again, it's already in the solution. But also in the future, because there is a limit. There is a limit where your corals will outcompete the consumption of alkalinity and calcium, and this will no longer be able to keep up. Once that level hits, you can either run a doser, water changes if you want to do so, maintaining your levels, or just run a calcium reactor, which is probably the route I'm going to be going. So I'm going to be running this pretty much till the tank is consuming more calcium and alkalinity. After that, I'm still going to keep this in there to keep the advantages of the elevated pH, but then at that point, you'll probably see a calcium reactor introduced into the system. This video, very much like last week's video, I actually want to ask you guys, the viewers, a question, especially you guys that have ran or are running a kalkstirrer in your reef tank. I'd really love to hear your thoughts on what the benefits are, what the cons are. Some of the cons I have heard, I'll just blurt them out here real quick. You got to be cleaning it often. It makes a big mess when you clean it. It's too complicated. It's not necessary. Generally, that's what I've kind of got around to hearing or reading But again, I've also seen a lot of people that maintain amazing SPS reef tanks, not only for short term but long term, and they swear by a kalkstirrer. I mean, I've heard numerous people, especially people that are more towards SPS, that have even said, I'll never set up a tank without a kalkstirrer. So this will be my first run on running a kalkstirrer specifically, but not my first time running kalk in my reef tank, because again, I did do it at the JBJ at the beginning, up until pretty much the alkalinity and calcium it just couldn't keep up. At that point, I think I took it offline. I stopped dosing it my auto top off, and then I kind of moved on to dosing supplements. I'd really love to hear you guys that have ran kalkstirrers, that are running kalkstirrers. I'd love to hear what you love about them, maybe what you dislike about them. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? What are your thoughts? I'd really love to hear them. Again, I really appreciate each and every one of you that, comments, interact with me. I really love that, really appreciate it. I do try my best to read every comment, try to reply to every comment. So be sure to leave a comment down below on your thoughts on a kalkstirrer, if you've ever ran one. Maybe you have questions about this one, be sure to ask them down below. That's gonna be it, guys, for today's video. Next video, you're gonna wanna make sure you don't miss it. You're gonna wanna make sure you're subscribed, you hit the notification bell, because the tank, unless something catastrophic happens, is going to be delivered on Monday from, I think, about 12 to 4. So I'm beyond excited. I think next week we're going to let the cat out of the bag, if you will. We're going to be unveiling the brand, the tank, and what we're going to be doing for probably the next 4, 5, 6 years with the future build. So I really thank each and every one of you for watching. If I earned your thumbs up, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. It really helps me out. If you aren't subscribed, what are you doing? Be sure to subscribe. We got some great content coming up. A lot of knowledge-based content, a lot of asking you the viewers questions, and just all in all, a great environment. Talk reefing, talk corals, talk fish, talk dry goods. Be sure to subscribe. So thank each and every one of you very much for watching. As always, happy reefing.